Hi, Jeff.
Well, District 2 Congressman Tim Griffin joins us this evening to give us his opinions on today's latest developments in Washington and what could happen once Congress reconvenes next week.
Yeah, it's certainly a lot to talk about. We do appreciate you taking your time to join us.
Yeah.
Let's get right to it. I mean, Republicans today are urging Democrats to accept a $4 billion proposal in cuts, a compromise, if you will, in order to keep the government running for at least 2 weeks past the March 4th deadline. If you look at that and everything else that's been put on the table, do you think the government will be shut down come next week?
No, I don't. I don't think the government will be shut down, and I'm not interested in the government being shut down, and the leadership is not, from all my discussions with them. I think what you're going to see is the House has got to pass something and send it over to the Senate. And we passed the CR last week, and that was not voted on by the Senate. I think what you're going to see is a 2-week or so continuing resolution, as the bill is called. We'll send it over to the Senate, and they will need to pass that to send it to the president. But we're going to pass it. It will be just for 2 weeks to give some more time for negotiation on the longer deal. But I think what you hear from me and from our side is that we do not want to shut down the government, but we do want to get spending under control. And I think that there's a way to do both, to get this passed and to cut some spending. And that, I think you're going to see us focusing on some cuts that we can all agree on, that the Senate can agree on, that the president can agree on. And then we'll have to deal with the term deal. We may end up doing 2 weeks and $4 billion cut, and another 2 weeks and $4 billion in cuts. But we've got to start taking some steps to reining in our spending, and I think that I feel very strong about that, and I think the other folks, particularly the freshmen in the House, feel the same way.
Your response is interesting, because some of the Democrats are saying that House Republicans are threatening to force this shutdown. You're saying just the opposite, basically. But Democrats are saying that Republicans want to get everything they want right now. And you're saying that there will be a compromise. That's what I'm getting.
There's going to have to be a compromise. I will tell you this. The only people that I hear talking about a shutdown of the government are folks on the other side.
Democrats.
Not all Democrats. I'll be real specific. Nancy Pelosi is continually talking about a government shutdown because she wants something like that to happen to blame the House members. I believe that. I don't want the government to shut down. The leadership doesn't want the government to shut down. What we want to do is keep the government running, but trim our spending. I think the American people spoke really loudly in November about spending. There was no one on Election Day that didn't know that my plan was to cut spending. I campaigned on it. I talked about it incessantly. People all over the country did. And I did it because one reason: we're broke. We are completely broke. And if you looked on the web, on the U.S. government's balance, we're broke. There's a big zero. So that's what it's ultimately about. We've got to start getting on the right path.
Speaking of that, as we look forward, as we look ahead, hopefully we can get past this and reach some kind of compromise.
I think we will.
But as we look forward, there's also another vote that Congress is going to be facing later on, coming April and May, and that's to raise the debt ceiling, which currently right now is at a whopping $14.3 trillion. Have you even considered that, and how will you vote?
Absolutely. I have considered. I would say a couple things on that. This is another opportunity where we have to get, as part of that vote, we have to have some cuts. If you ask people, are you willing to just raise the debt ceiling just straight up today? I think a lot of the folks in the House would say absolutely not. If you ask them, are you willing to raise it and with some accompanying cuts, they would say yes. I think it is important to note that we're a country of laws and obligations, and we have a history of meeting our obligations. We can't just willy-nilly not pay our bills. I get that. But we have to use these opportunities to start going in the right direction on the spending.
Yeah.
Because when I'm long gone, my kids
Yeah.
are going to be dealing with this. And that's why I ran, and I am dead set on following through on it.
I'm glad you're talking about cuts, because getting back to what Republicans are being accused of, you know, a lot of cuts, 30% in cuts, one being a 30% cut to the National Weather Service.
Sure.
Those of us who live here in Arkansas, we realize how valuable the National Weather Service is. We just had a weather event yesterday with
Sure.
2 tornado touchdowns.
Absolutely.
When you talk about cutting NWS, we're talking about 27-day furloughs. Are you supporting a 30% cut to the National Weather Service?
I'm supporting whatever was in the CR, which included cuts to that. But here's the deal. We are broke. And if we continue, I sit in my office every day, and folks come in and say, don't cut this and don't cut that. If we don't cut anywhere, then we are gonna end up being bankrupt. That is effectively where we're headed. Now, will certain agencies have to do more with less? Absolutely. Now, as you know, those cuts are not law. That's the bill that the Senate rejected. Mm-hmm. So that CR is now, in terms of the Senate, it's dead on arrival. So we're sort of starting over from all that stuff that we voted on a week ago because the Senate wouldn't pass it. But I can tell you there's a lot of things that I would like to triple and quadruple funding for, except the fact that we're broke. There are a lot of programs that do great things. This is not about whether they're good. This is about whether we're bankrupt. Yeah. And ultimately, this is about jobs. This country, when I'm long gone, the next generations are not going to live in the America that I lived in and that you lived in if we do not get this debt under control. We will not have the job creation engine that we have historically had, and we will be relegated to a position among the countries of the world that we don't want to be in. And the reason is we've waited too long to address these problems, and now there's going to be some pain to deal with it. And it's not easy for a lot of politicians to say, but we got to start saying it.
Well, Arkansans are certainly feeling the pain. I know you're feeling the pressure along with the rest of the congressmen, but we do appreciate you taking the time to discuss these issues, and wish you the best of luck come next week.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll be watching, that's for sure. All right, thank you.